Thank you, Chairman, members. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity today to lay out House Bill 1929. Members, this is a taxpayer protection bill. This bill seeks to protect Texans from being forced to pay for abortions with their tax dollars. While measures have passed in each of the last several legislative sessions to prevent state funds from going to the abortion industry, the existing prohibitions do not impact transactions made by political subdivisions at every level of government. House Bill 1929 will prohibit tax dollars at both the state and local level from being used to fund abortion providers and their affiliates. Taxpayers who oppose abortion should not have to see their tax dollars subsidizing the abortion industry. Members, my sub makes the following changes to the original bill. The sub changes the definition of abortion to bring it in line with the standard definition that was passed last session. In the definition of abortion provider, the sub uses language that is more precise and provides more clarity. Under the sub, governmental entities may provide utilities to abortion providers and affiliates in the same manner they do to the general public. Also, the sub makes clear that the bill does not apply to an abortion performed during a medical emergency. Finally, the sub changes the effective date from the special session language to September 1st, 2019. Members, House Bill 1929 is consistent with the legislature's policy of ensuring dignity for the unborn, and it is good public policy for Texas taxpayers. Thank you, members. I'll be glad to answer any questions, and with that, I reserve the right to close.
I see no questions. Representative Noble, thank you. Representative Harless.
This is really a taxpayer bill, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair calls Travis Crystal, John Ciego, Dennis Siebert, and Ann Hettinger. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill. John, you can start.
Oh,
you don't mind.
Thank you, Chairman Phelan, members of the committee. Thanks for the opportunity to testify this morning. My name is John Ciego. I serve as the legislative director for Texas Right to Life. Texas Right to Life supports House Bill 1929. The bill is a priority for Texas Right to Life, and we're very thankful for Chairman Springer, who worked on this last session, and for Representative Noble, who worked on this, and the committee, a committee sub. Texas Right to Life is recommending the committee examine multiple ways to expand the impact of this important piece of legislation, and you'll see on the handout that I just gave the committee the specific ways that we're asking for this to be amended. The Senate version of this includes lobbying and advocating. This is an important addition because we have seen the City of Austin and Harris County Commissioners Court adopt a kind of in their city legislative agenda an item that says the city lobbyist will go and lobby on behalf of entities that perform abortion to receive more taxpayer money. So they're using a taxpayer lobbyist to go and lobby for more taxpayer money for an abortion. And right now, the House version does not include that. The Senate version does. And so we appreciate your considering that. Also, right now, the legislation only applies to abortion clinics and to ambulatory surgical centers. We recommend expanding the application of this bill to include higher ed institutions as well as hospitals. The reason that we're passing this, or we support this legislation, is that no taxpayer dollars should go to an entity that performs or participates in elective abortions. That's because an elective abortion is the intentional act to end the life of an innocent human being. It is a bigger, stronger party taking the life of a smaller, weaker party, and that's why we should not have any taxpayer funds going to an entity that makes money off of that act of injustice. The last point that I'll bring up is that we recommend that the committee examine how to include Medicaid and keeping abortion providers and their affiliates from benefiting from Medicaid in Texas. Right now, the bill only applies to state funding, and you'll see in Section 2272 003C, it explicitly states the bill does not affect any federal funds or federal laws, and we recommend adding a section that says Texas will disqualify any abortion provider or affiliates of that provider from being in Medicaid. Right now, there's a lawsuit going on where Texas is kicking a few Planned Parenthood affiliates out of Medicaid, but it's for a cause. It's because they're accusing Planned Parenthood of violating their contract and their Medicaid contract, and so that would just affect two specific affiliates in Texas. It wouldn't apply to the rest of Planned Parenthood in Texas. And so we're recommending adding a section that says Texas is going to reassert its right to determine who a Medicaid provider is, and say if you perform abortions, if you're an affiliate of an abortion provider, we will not send taxpayer dollars to you through the Medicaid program. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Denise Seibert. I'm a resident of Belton, Texas. I ask a vote yes on HB 1929. I thank you for allowing me the time to be heard. As a woman who experienced the uncaring and unprofessional medical service for my abortion at a Planned Parenthood facility, I ask that the state of Texas in no way fund any of the Planned Parenthood facilities. I am a woman, and my medical care at a Planned Parenthood facility was uninformative. The risk of my abortion was not explained to me, nor the procedures explained by a doctor at any time. In fact, I never even saw the doctor who performed my abortion. And since here in Texas, laws have to be written and passed to force Planned Parenthood to give women all the information of medical risks and procedures and to explain the development of the baby in the womb before an abortion is performed, this tells me that a woman's medical health is not considered as important to the Planned Parenthood facilities as a whole. I have never since had to force any of my doctors to meet with me or explain to me the risk of a medical procedure. I hate shots. I always have. And let alone if it had been explained to me that a sharp instrument such as a curettage would have been inserted into me, I would have never gone through with my abortion, or even if the development of my baby had been explained to me again, I would have never had my abortion. I ask that Planned Parenthood would not be funded by the state of Texas, and if Planned Parenthood truly gave women medical care, why does Texas have to create laws to enforce full disclosure of procedure, the risk, and the development of the baby before an abortion? This is not medical health care for a woman. It is the selling of a product of abortion. No one wants any type of medical procedure performed on them without the risk and procedure explained in full by the doctor. Totally explaining to any person going in for any type of procedure by a doctor is expected by all medical patients. This is the expected norm. I am a woman who regrets ever allowing Planned Parenthood to deceive me and to sell me the product of abortion without fully explaining to me the procedure and the development of my baby. Vote yes on HB 1929. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak for HB 1929. My name is Ann Hedinger. I'm the State Director for Concerned Women for America of Texas. In my over 80 years on this earth, I can attest to the fact that there is nothing that destroys faith in government, frustrates, and angers citizens more than a lack of fiduciary integrity. The choices that are made in prioritizing the use of taxpayer funds and assets. According to recent polls, the percentages of pro-life, pro-choice numbers indicate that virtually they're tied in their position for and against abortion. Yet in some municipal governments in this state, the leadership defies the wishes of over half of the legitimate responsibilities that go in favor of abortion providers, while other legitimate responsibilities of that government go lacking. These leaders choose to use government assets to support a public policy position that half of their constituents oppose. In the local case, the business favored is not financially deprived nor in jeopardy. Therefore, there's no public interest in granting aid to it. Isn't it ironic that municipal assets are being used to literally destroy future tax-paying citizens of the city? Where are the funds and the assets that give aid to those who are striving to support and improve life, like pregnancy care centers? I ask that you restrain the appropriations made by municipalities as they relate to the abortion industry and pass HB 1929. Thank you very much.
Representative Holland.
I would just like to say, and also in full respect to everyone registered to testify, that Ann Hettinger is my favorite witness today because she's from Rockwall, Texas. Thank you for your longstanding record and advocacy in the state of Texas.
Thank you to my favorite representative.
Hey now.
She says that to everybody, by the way, Justin. Thank you for being here. Chair calls Jennifer Allman, Daphne Hoffaker, Philip Sevilla, and Melanie Salazar. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
My name is Jennifer Allman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops. I am testifying in support of HB 1929. This bill will protect taxpayers from subsidizing abortion providers through preferential contracts and property deals. Time and time again, the people of Texas have made it abundantly clear that our citizens have tremendous respect for unborn life. This bill ensures that our tax dollars are not used in violation of the most basic principle of our union, that all people are guaranteed a right to life. As our legislature seeks to reform property taxes and fund essential services of local and state government, now is the time to prohibit the misdirected use of local tax subsidy and support for abortion. Abortion is not health care, but instead it is the intentional destruction of innocent human life, which ought never to be funded or subsidized by our tax dollars directly or indirectly. Instead, our limited resources should be focused on education, public safety, true health care, including the expansion of comprehensive community-based health care, and alternatives to abortion, such as adoption and parenting support programs. HB 1929 is yet another way that the state of Texas can express our profound respect for human life and establish an even stronger culture of life in Texas. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melanie Salazar, and I am a student at the University of Texas in San Antonio. I am the president of the Students for Life pro-life group there, and I am here to represent Students for Life Action, all the other young college students who are staunchly pro-life and cannot be here today, and I am here to represent preborn Texans and be a voice for the voiceless. I am pro-life because of what basic biology and embryology teach me about when human life begins. I am in favor of HB 1929 because I believe that abortion is intrinsically evil and is unnatural. I believe that abortion is a direct and intentional killing and ending of a human life. We know that at the moment of fertilization, the preborn humans are alive because they're growing. We know they're human because they have two human parents, they have human DNA, and I believe that humans, like all of us in this room, are valuable. So I believe that preborn humans are equally valuable as well. I think we are all equally human, born and preborn. Abortion is not a simple removal of cells, whether it be by the women taking pills and having to give birth in a toilet, preborn humans having to be vacuumed out of the uterus or ripped apart piece by piece, or having to have a shot of digoxin into the heart to cause a heart attack. I believe that these procedures are absolutely horrible, And I don't want the state of Texas to have their hands in these facilities that provide such procedures. I would want the state of Texas to reallocate government money to federally qualified health centers and or pregnancy resource centers that offer women real choices, that empower women to choose life. I believe that empowered women empower women to choose life. And that is what I want as a woman, as a minority, as a young college student who is targeted by Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Phil Sevilla. I'm president of the Texas Leadership Institute for Public Advocacy from San Antonio. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today in support of HB 1929 for my organization and for myself. Before moving to Texas in 2010, I served as a director of the Pregnancy Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were located 50 feet from Planned Parenthood, offering alternative care to women experiencing unwanted pregnancies. We offered free pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, prenatal education, job training, facilitated adoption referrals, never abortion. We took not 1 cent of taxpayer funds ever. In the recent SB 22 hearing, a former state senator testified against the bill on the grounds that the legislation would be detrimental to the reproductive health of women in Texas. May we all reflect and acknowledge the charade and farce of this often used slogan by pro-abortion partisans. When a pregnant woman enters an abortion facility for a chemical or surgical abortion, there are 2 heartbeats or even more she is carrying. Pregnancies are often not detected as early as the 3rd or 4th week. According to current technology and ultrasounds and fetal echocardiography, the baby's heartbeat is detectable as early as 18 to 22 days after conception. His or her brainwaves are detectable 40 to 42 days after conception. Pregnancy is obviously not a disease. The pregnant mother is healthy unless she or the baby she is carrying in her womb is experiencing an underlying medical condition. When she leaves the abortion facility after the procedure, there is only 1 heartbeat left. The 2nd heartbeat or more that she was carrying is no more. In every completed abortion, life ends. This act has nothing to do with health care. We support HB 1929, which will prohibit state government entities and local political subdivisions in Texas from providing public funds and from entering into taxpayer resource transactions with an abortion provider or an affiliate of an abortion provider. We also appeal to the committee and the bill sponsors to strengthen this bill regarding Medicaid benefits to specifically prohibit taxpayer funded lobbying by government entities, including local political subdivisions. Thank you.
Representative Harless. You can.
Thank you, ma'am. You mentioned that people were getting preferential land deals. Can you expand on that just a little bit for me?
To a degree. For example, in Austin, Planned Parenthood is able to rent a government facility that's owned by the city of Austin for, I believe, $1 a month or $1 a year. And if another renter were using that facility, then the state would, or the county, the city, would be making income off of it, and that would assist with the revenue in the city.
They're renting a facility for $1 a month or $1 a year?
Something like that. You may have another witness who knows more about that particular contract.
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, it's $1. It's in my district, by the way, this facility. And they don't perform abortions in this facility. Austin also provides $1 a month for Red Cross, for some of their properties, for Red Cross and Junior Achiever, for Tree Folks, Austin Youth River Watch, Austin Travis County Integral Care, for Capital City African American Chamber of Commerce, $0 for Austin Pets Alive, $0 for Zachary Scott Theater. So these are things that the city of Austin, in this particular case, feels is important to the community, and it's their land, and they've opted to either for free or at $1 a year provided to certain entities that they think provide a service to the community. And other cities do the exact same thing.
And our position would be that as service, even if it's a referral for an abortion, it's a referral that ends life, and that many taxpayers believe that that is not equal to community services that are positive and provide education and enrichment to the community, that abortion never provides enrichment or education. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you.
Chair calls Stephanie Hayden, Molly White, Ruth York, and Jerry Sharp. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. My name is Stephanie Hayden, and I am the Director of the City of Austin's Public Health Department. I will be testifying against House Bill 1929. An important key to good health is having access to health care. Positive health outcomes are achieved when we have access to services throughout the community to meet people where they live and work. Planned Parenthood has been at this location for over 4 decades. It is a known provider in the community for providing comprehensive health care services. They provide an array of services from breast and cervical cancer screenings, pregnancy prevention, treatment of sexually transmitted infections, and education. Planned Parenthood provides services to all people. However, the majority of the clients they serve live in poverty. As a safety net provider, they are able to schedule timely appointments to ensure easy access to services. Now is the time to increase health service providers for our indigent and hardworking families. In the state of Texas, sexually transmitted infections are on the rise. In the U.S., Texas, and Travis County, chlamydia infections are most common. Gonorrhea is second most common, with syphilis being third. HIV continues to be an epidemic in our state and nation. With the increase in the number of chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis cases in Texas, it is imperative that we ensure agencies that provide services for the treatment and prevention of sexually transmitted infections are operational. With this increase, we cannot decrease the number of service providers. At the 7th Street location, Planned Parenthood served over 5,000 patients in 2017. And they provided testing and treatment and screening to people experiencing sexually transmitted infections. Austin is very fortunate to have really good providers. However, the current system of providers doesn't have the capacity to absorb these services if we lose these services. I respectfully request that you vote no on House Bill 1929, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Representative Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here, testifying. So you said this was this, I guess, arrangement with the City of Austin and this particular facility has been going on since the 70s, early 70s, is that right?
Early 70s, yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, has this facility ever provided abortions?
To my knowledge, this facility has never provided abortions.
And you may or may not be able to answer this question, but this facility in my district? It has a completely separate kind of arrangement from National Planned Parenthood. There's a separate kind of, relationship that they have. They're under the umbrella, but they have a very different kind of, separate kind of entity almost for this particular facility. Is that correct?
To my understanding, yes. They are under the general umbrella of Planned Parenthood, but they are a separate facility.
And what is the income level on average of the people of the men and women that get services there? And once you tell me that, can you tell us just briefly, like, what are some of these services that these low-income people would receive?
The average income for a family of 4 is around the 200% or below poverty, which is about $36,000 for a family of 4. They provide screening and testing for sexually transmitted infections, HIV screenings, breast and cervical cancer screenings. They do education and promotion. They also have a teen pregnancy prevention program where they are really working aggressively to decrease the number of teenage pregnancies in Austin and Travis County.
So without this particular facility, there's a chance that a lot of these folks wouldn't have really a place to go. They'd have to actually, it would be one less place for them, I guess, to go for this kind of services.
This will be one less place for people to go. Just as an FYI, the City of Austin has a sexually transmitted infection clinic, and by noon, most days our clinic is full. So if we were to try to absorb 5,000 people, that would be extremely difficult. In my conversations with my other colleagues that actually provide healthcare services at the federally qualified health centers, they agree as well, because in our conversations we know that access to care is extremely important, and there are days on end when people cannot even get into regular services.
So do you think this ACE, not only Austin, I think people want to focus too much on maybe this particular facility, but is it in a city's best interest to try to, not just best interest, but as far as public policy goes, and use whatever tools the city might have to ensure the public health and well-being of its community?
It is, and if anyone were to look, as a nation, sexually transmitted infections are on the rise. They have constantly rose every year for the last 5 to 7 years. CDC director has said that he feels like that we are going backwards because all of the places that are providing services are receiving a mass amount of pressure points. The state of Texas, our sexually transmitted infection disease rates have skyrocketed as well.
So as a city, this Austin has, since the early 70s, my understanding 74 or 5 or something like that, has decided that this is a priority, trying to deal with public health issues when it becomes to sexually transmitted diseases, cancer screenings, et cetera, it's a priority, and it's worth maybe offering a very low annual rent to ensure that this facility can continue to provide these services, and the city should be allowed to continue to do that, I would think.
The city looks at how the service that an entity in any of their facilities that they're leasing, how does that provide a benefit to the community? The services that they are provided, if they were to charge for those services, that service equates to more than what the rent would be if they were paying rent.
Right.
Cost-benefit analysis.
And not to veer off, and then I'll stop, but not to veer off too much, but I mentioned a list of other nonprofits that have a similar arrangement or even a zero rent arrangement. Zach Scott Theater, I guess, the city thinks that the arts are important in the community, so they provided that benefit there. Austin Pets Alive, it could very well be because they want less feral cats and dogs on the streets, and they see that as a public health issue as well. Correct?
Yes.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No more questions? Next witness, please.
Mr. Chairman, just before you escape.
Chairman King.
Thank you. And I was just reading over the bill while you were talking, and I don't know if you've had a chance to really study it, but you understand that it doesn't, and I don't want to pick on Austin, because I'm sure there's other cities that may be doing the same thing, but you understand that it doesn't prevent Austin from leasing that same facility to healthcare providers that would provide the same type of services but not give abortion referrals. Because I understand Planned Parenthood's abortion facility is just a couple miles down the road, and we know they do referrals. So the city understands, I presume, that they could lease this to another nonprofit or another provider that could provide those same STD type services and things like that, same screening services, without giving abortion referrals.
We do understand that, but in the market, I mean, as far as the providers that are available to provide services in that community, they are already present in that community. So there is a federally qualified health center that's like 2 miles up the street, 7th and on the Houston Tillison's campus. So there are providers that are in the community. My biggest concern as a health director is I have to focus on protecting our citizens from infectious diseases. And because as a nation, as a state, as a county, throughout Texas and our largest cities, sexually transmitted infections are a huge challenge.
I understand that completely, and I agree with your objective in that direction. But I just wanted to make sure the city understood that they would be able to contract with objective in that direction. But I just wanted to make sure the city understood that they would be able to contract with someone else who provides the same health care services without providing the same abortion-related services. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Representative Swanson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of questions for you. One, Representative King addressed, but one is, do they do mammograms at that location?
They collaborate with the Susan Komen Foundation, and they refer people over for the mammogram screenings through Susan G. Komen.
So your answer is no, they don't do mammograms there. Okay, so what about, do they refer for abortions? Do they send people referrals and send people over to their other location?
I don't know the answer to that question as far as that specific question.
You don't think that would be important for the city to know and have a policy about?
I think that would be important for the city to be aware of the services that they provide there. And they have provided the city of Austin a list of the services that they provide. And abortion services are not on that list.
Okay, but you didn't ask whether they do referrals, and I think that would be good for you to check. The third thing is, you listed that there are some other providers of these services over there in that general neighborhood. How many of them are getting free rent or $1 a month, $1 a year, whatever it is? And if there are not any others getting it, why are you playing favorites with Planned Parenthood then?
The federally qualified health center that has 3 locations, just kind of really in that general vicinity, their rent is the same as Planned Parenthood's. They were originally a part of the City of Austin Health Department, and when they transitioned over to Travis County Community Care, they remained to be in those facilities. So they have an official lease with the City of Austin, and they also pay $1, the same amount of rent.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Thank you. Back to our next witness. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Phelan, members of the committee. My name is Ruth York. I'm speaking for myself in support of HB 1929. I strongly applaud this effort to divert money streams away from the abortion industry. This giant industry is decimating the future of Texas by ending the lives of 53,000 tiny, growing Texans every year. Of course, we should defund this enemy of our future. There's another reason to cut taxpayer funding to abortion providers. They're busy pushing their corrupt and damaging sexual ideologies into our public, charter, and private schools. Sexual ideologies that often do not align with parents' values. Sexual ideologies that are not age appropriate. Sexual ideologies that very likely increase the very diseases we were talking about. They may even break Texas law. They are calculated to expand their clientele, their business model, and they do. These subversive sexual ideologies are often slipped into the school without input or awareness by the parents of the students. This must be stopped. I would like this bill to also ensure that all such businesses are defunded and banned from any contact with students, including their print and digital media. I'm grateful to Representatives Noble, Morrison, Click, Phil King, and Springer for authoring this bill, and the 52 co-authors who joined it. I encourage our other representatives to do the same. Thank you.
Representative White, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Chairman and
Thank you
Vice
for being
Chairman
here.
and all the distinguished members. It's good to be back. My name is Molly White, and I am here to vote in favor of House Bill 1929 because I and many of the people in my former district or where I live oppose our tax dollars going to any agencies that would provide or refer for abortions. And I want to speak particularly to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood profits by sexualizing our children. They are a sex industry that seduces children and young adults into dangerous and risky sexual behaviors and then profiting billions selling them STD testing, birth control, and abortion. I believe that's a conflict of interest for any school or school district to hire or partner with Planned Parenthood for any of their sex education curriculum because they are an abortion provider. Planned Parenthood reported an income in 2012, their income reported from 2012 from abortion only was $170,126,320, which accounts for 55% of their clinic income. Planned Parenthood took in a reported $1.1 billion in 2012 in total. Now, where does their funding come from? Planned Parenthood reportedly receives $542 million in taxpayer funds, or 45% of its $1.1 billion annual income through local, state, and federal agencies. With a nonprofit group that brings in $1.1 billion, I don't think they need a penny of our tax dollars. As a taxpayer, I don't want my tax dollars going to Planned Parenthood or any other abortion provider. You're going to hear more testimonies, I'm sure, that explains the Planned Parenthood education curriculum, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Next witness, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and other committee members. My name is Jerry Sharp. I'm a student at the University of Texas at San Antonio. I'm here to support and in favor of House Bill 1929. I'm also here representing Students for Life Action and for all the other students that are unable to attend here today. I just want to speak on behalf of other students that feel that this bill is an attack on their health care. I also want to make notion that this bill should be and would be stronger with the amendments that are found in the Senate bill. I would be in favor and support of that if it's to be amended. I also want to speak to other students that are listening in and that have reached out in shock of why a student like myself is here speaking in favor of this bill. As a college student, we're bombarded with advertisements, with brands, constantly. We spend our money in places we probably shouldn't spend. We eat too much fast food. And I speak to this because Planned Parenthood is a brand that is well known and is probably the only thing that students of my age really know about. And so I think we have a problem when it comes to advertisement, and I'm sorry, not advertisement, but just bringing it well known of the other federally qualified health clinics that exist, other nonprofits that provide the same amount of services, if not more, than Planned Parenthood, minus the abortion part. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of that and show that students are here and we are the pro-life generation, and we are in full support of this bill with amendments. Thank you.
Representative Harless.
This question for Ms. White, please.
Yes, sir.
I was writing the numbers down. I want to make sure I got them right. Did you say they took in $1.1 billion?
In 2012, yes.
Wow.
I wish I had a nonprofit organization for many years, and I didn't come near close to that.
I have one more question. Department of Health. The Austin Department of Health. Oh. Stephanie, you speak to if this deal goes away, the cost of services may increase.
If in Austin, if Planned, can you clarify your question?
Sure. So let's say the market rents $10,000 to $11,000 a month, and you're paying $1 a year, and assuming your rent is now going to be excess of $100,000 a year, are you saying that the cost of services delivered by this organization will increase?
The cost of service will increase because they're going to have to, pay the full amount of rent.
Sure. So I've looked up, I was able to find the Planned Parenthood of Greater Dallas net income of 2016. These are all 2016 numbers. Net income of $3.2 million. That's net. They're paying fair market rent. Net assets of $46.8 million. Planned Parenthood of Houston in Southeast Texas, net income 2016, $2.6 million. Net assets, $49.3 million. South Texas Planned Parenthood, which is San Antonio, 2016, net revenue $1.7 million. Net assets, $9.4. I cannot find the Central Texas or Austin number. I cannot find those 990s. So if there's a Planned Parenthood person in the room, I'd like to have that 990 sooner rather than later. I'd like to see, if they're having net income in excess of $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, do they have assets of $46 million? I think the money's there to pay the rent. And quite frankly, it's not about Planned Parenthood, in my opinion. I'm offended that I'm a real estate guy. I wish I could get $10,000 a month for some of my lease spaces. I mean, the Red Cross, they make good money. I know what the Red Cross makes. I dealt with them in Hurricane Harvey. They make a lot of money. Too much money, in my opinion. All right? And there are better organizations that could serve that population, too. So I'm just kind of offended at the low rent across the board. It's not just Planned Parenthood, although they do refer to abortions, and I find that revolting as well. But I'm talking about just, I think it's ridiculous. And I worked in Washington, D.C. in the Clinton years when the federal government got rid of any contracting with abortion providers. I worked in the Texas Senate when we got rid of all contracting with abortion providers. This is the third leg of that. And I push back on the notion that there's not a revenue stream here for this organization to cover their rent. I find that to be a reach, to say the least. Any other questions for this panel? Thank you. Chair calls Carol Frederick, Jenny Andrews, Carol Ayaya, and Vanessa McDougall.
Go ahead. Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Andrews. I'm the Public Policy Analyst for Texas Alliance for Life. We are a statewide organization of people committed to protecting innocent human lives from conception to natural death using peaceful legal means. We come today strongly in support of HB 1929, which would prohibit school districts, cities, counties, and hospital districts from using taxpayer dollars to contract with abortion providers or their affiliates. One example, which has been mentioned earlier today, is the City of Austin, which has recently renewed a contract with Planned Parenthood in which it allows the abortion provider to rent a taxpayer-funded building at 1823 East 7th Street for the purposes of operating a family planning clinic. Scrolled down too much. Okay. For $1 per year for 10 years with an option to extend for an additional 10 years. The fair market value of the lease is $100,000 per year. The City of Austin should not be able to subsidize the work of Planned Parenthood, which is contrary to the public policy of the state of Texas. The truth is that women do not need Planned Parenthood. Women who are over 18 do not have insurance and are at or below 185% of the federal poverty line can receive preventive health and family planning services through the Healthy Texas Women program. In fact, on the website healthytexaswomen.org, you can see that there are 61 non-abortion providers within 20 miles of the address which the City of Austin has leased to Planned Parenthood. Those include 4 community health centers within a mile, all of which provide comprehensive primary care for low-income women, a standard that Planned Parenthood does not offer to low-income women. In addition to Healthy Texas Women, Texas provides vast services for low-income women through Medicaid, and we also have the Alternatives to Abortion programs. The Medicaid program provides women's health services and preventive health services for women, including contraceptions, but not abortion or advocacy for abortion. The Alternative to Abortion program offers services as well at more than 100 sites across the state, and all of their services are free. In 2005 and again in 2011, Texas passed legislation that excludes Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers from the Healthy Texas Women Program, formerly the Women's Health Program. And in Planned Parenthood v. Sues, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Texas's right to structure the program the way that you legislators saw fit and to focus the monies on comprehensive health care through federally qualified health centers, private physicians, and family planning clinics that do not offer or refer for abortion. The Fifth Circuit Court ruled that Texas can prevent abortion providers and their affiliates from being emissaries of our state programs. While it is true that Texas is strictly limited in terms of its authority to enact restrictions on the ability of individual women who choose abortion, the state has virtual free rein to actively implement its value judgment favoring childbirth over abortion, where it does not directly restrict an individual's decision. Nowhere is this more clear than in the allocation of public funds. The state of Texas clearly has the ability to actively implement its public policy favoring childbirth over abortion and the legislature's policy of ensuring quality health care for women. The passage of HB 1929 would remove taxpayer funding from abortion providers and their affiliates. This is good public policy. It is consistent with the policy of the state, and I appreciate your support. Thank you for your time.
I got a question, Chairman.
Representative
You said you're with Texas Alliance for Life, is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? Do y'all have a facility or building, office space or someplace?
We do rent office space.
You do rent. Is it more than $1 a month?
I'm confident of that, though I don't know what it is.
Okay. But you're pretty confident it's more than $1 a month?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vanessa MacDougall. I'm representing myself and I'm here to speak against the bill. I live here in Austin. I have volunteered for the last 6 years teaching a comprehensive sex ed class at my church to junior and senior high school students. And in that time, I've observed that unfortunately, there's a lot of ignorance among our young people about how their bodies work, how babies are made, how babies are not made. I've been proud to do my small part to fill in that gap. But we can't begin to address that in our small church program. And my observation has been that we need more partners offering health education and STI prevention and treatment, not fewer. And as an Austinite who's pretty civically engaged, and I've lived here for over 20 years, my observation is that Planned Parenthood does represent our local community values, and Austinites are very capable of going to City Hall or the polls to, request something else if they didn't feel it was in keeping with our local values. And I mean, if other cities don't want to partner with Planned Parenthood, that's fine, but it doesn't make sense to me to make a statewide ban. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here and discussing this bill. My name's Carol Federick, and I'm in favor of House Bill 1929. Abortion providers and affiliates should not receive tax dollars from student services either. The biggest point of entry for Planned Parenthood is through comprehensive sex ed, which reaches tens of thousands of Texas students each year. Those who zealously promote comprehensive sex ed use the enticement of unlimited information about sex to lure children and students to their site in order to also recruit them into becoming social justice advocates. Using sex ed, Planned Parenthood and affiliates are social change agents with political agendas. The national sexuality education standards are being used in Texas schools. The NSES is the sex ed equivalent to Common Core Math and English, which was prohibited for use in Texas by the Texas legislature in 2013. The NSES is the result of the 2012 Future of Sex Education Initiative, a partnership of Advocates for Youth, Answer, and SECUS to institutionalize graphic, explicit, comprehensive, and inclusive sex ed nationwide K through 12. The standards were developed by an advisory committee of 18 people, mostly employed by those three organizations and Planned Parenthood. Advocates for Youth, Answer, and SECUS have direct links to Planned Parenthood. All of those organizations are committed to liberating children of all ages from parental authority, increasing sexual activity, and destroying the social norms by normalizing non-conforming sexual orientations and gender identities beginning no later than kindergarten. Their plans for change do not end with sex. The SECUS site openly states that sex ed is a vehicle for social change. Advocates for Youth's social media outreach begins with 9-year-olds. Their website invites 14-year-olds to join with other youth activists and adults to build a better and more equitable world, because young people understand that reproductive and sexual health are inextricably, tied to social issues, including economic justice, voting rights, immigrants' rights, environmentalism, and LGBTQ and gender identity. Their lessons include the logos of UNESCO and the United Nations Population Fund. Planned Parenthood and SECUS both have long histories with UN involvement. And one of the pages in my handout for you show the political biases of Advocates for Youth. To be perfectly clear, I am all for equality, and everyone is entitled to their political causes. But indoctrination into any political ideology should not be allowed in classrooms ever. Sex ed has become a tool for the political advancement of progressive global agendas, and our children are being victimized by it. Please vote this bill out of committee. Thank you.
Can you restate your position on the bill, please?
I'm for the bill.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Ayala, and I'm here to represent myself and also concerned parents of Texas. We are for the bill. And one of the things we want to share with you is what your tax dollars are doing already when it comes to Planned Parenthood. The handout that I gave you that looks like this, if you look at it closely,
We'll hand them out in a second. Thank you. Go ahead.
This is something your tax dollars are doing in our schools. This was a pamphlet, and you can see that it's a photo of a pamphlet that was passed out here in Austin at Covington Middle School in Austin Independent School District. Now, I am a former teacher of Austin Independent School District. And when I decided to walk away from my job because of some of the things that the schools were doing here in Austin, I discovered a lot of things that I didn't know that most people don't know, most taxpayers. You can see that this pamphlet was wadded up by a 12-year-old student. He took it home to his grandmother, who is his guardian. And we were contacted. And this flyer by Planned Parenthood, if you look at the second bullet, it says Planned Parenthood's Consent Video Series. I went to that series to look at it on YouTube, and you're going to see, if you turn the page, you're going to see some shots that I took from the consent videos that you can watch. And it's going to look pretty innocuous until you see the teeny tiny words you can hardly read. The first one says, "Show me where you want me to touch you." The second one says, "Do you want to help me take these clothes off?" The third one says, "We all deserve a safe, pleasurable, and awesome sex life." And the last one says, "Make sure you check in first if they start looking like they've left their comfort zone." And so these videos were given to 11 to 14-year-olds. Okay? Now, if you go back to the very front page, you're going to see your tax dollars are at work here. At the bottom, it says, "Schedule your next appointment." It gives the website, It has a phone number, and then it says, now accepting insurance. This is for children, not adults. This is what they're doing with your tax dollars right now. This is why we support this bill. And the last thing I included was the very letter that I wrote to the school board to ask them why they were sexualizing our children in this way. Thank you very much.
No questions. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you. Chair calls Terry Johnson, Deborah Simmons, Maureen Davis, Elizabeth Ella. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Do you want to go first?
Sure.
If you'd state your name and your position on the bill.
Okay.
And who you represent.
Okay. Hi, my name is Terry Johnson, and I support HB 1929. I am representing myself, but I'm asking for you to include charter schools in the wording of the bill. I'm a parent of 4 young adults, ages 17 to 24, and I have served on a school health advisory council. I've worked for a local pregnancy resource center where I currently volunteer. And for the past 5 years, I've had a student in a charter school. Altering the language to specifically include charter schools from entering into transactions with abortion providers is needed because of the clear conflict of interest. There's no benefit to an abortion provider to encourage a student to delay sexual activity, and our tax dollars should be reserved for curricula and material that parents can trust and do not find offensive. Parents want a consistent, healthy message from their students' educators that does not conflict with their family values. There are charter schools in Texas that are working with Planned Parenthood. In fact, they are using charter schools to pilot its new app for sex education. Their Chatbox app is designed specifically for 13 to 17-year-olds, which they contend as necessary for teens who may be receiving abstinence-only information or no sex education at all. Planned Parenthood says it's an aggressive strategy to counterbalance conservative lawmakers and anti-abortion groups that have sought to defund the organization. Planned Parenthood charges $180 to $340 for a full STD panel and a pregnancy test. Simply put, they are intentionally targeting an audience that has not even reached the legal age of consent yet to create customers for their products and services, and apparently to counterbalance their opposition at the taxpayer's expense. Austin Life Care offered to lease the East Austin Planned Parenthood location at full market value. That's $110,000 a year. Offer all the same products and services minus abortion, and the city's real estate agent turned them down. As a conservative parent and advocate for women in crisis and for those most vulnerable, I find this strategy appalling. On any given day, most parents of teenagers are combating harmful information that comes through their students' cell phones, social media, and other websites. We need to be able to trust that the information coming from our publicly funded schools do not cause us the same grief. Please pass this bill and include school districts and public charter schools. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Do you have the list of the charter schools that have contracts?
On the back, I have of my testimony that I'm passing out. I have a link to all of the information where I got my information, and I know there's one in there that's in Austin, and I've labeled it on the back.
And you've provided that to the clerk?
Yes.
Great,
yes.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you would, please state your name, who you represent, and if you're testifying for or against or on the bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Ela. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Texas, where I work with Dr. Joseph Potter, who could not be here today due to a medical obligation. I am testifying on behalf of the two of us for ourselves. We oppose this bill, and we believe it will deprive Texas women of access to high-quality reproductive health care. This bill follows two previous measures, both of which had adverse consequences for Texas women. The first, passed in 2011, was the reduction of funding for family
Excuse
planning
me.
by 2/3.
I'm sorry. We've only
Yes,
got
sir.
you registered to testify on behalf of yourself, not on behalf of Dr. Potter.
Okay. I may have made a mistake when registering. In that case,
So for now, we're just showing you
okay.
testifying for yourself. And just to clarify, are you testifying? You said you were with UT. Are you testifying as a representative of University of Texas?
No, sir. The reason that I bring up my university affiliation is that I'm a social scientist, and I'll be reporting on some scientific research that I've done along with my colleague, Dr. Potter. We are not representing the University of Texas.
But you understand, of course, because I'm familiar with the group that you're a part of, which is a sponsored research group with the university, and you understand if you refer to report any information that came from that, you have to disclose that as being sponsored research and who paid for that research.
I was not aware, but I can go ahead and do that to the best of my ability now,
Okay,
sir.
please do. Thank you.
I'm part of the Texas Policy Evaluation Project, and we receive funding from the Susan Buffett Foundation, sir.
Thank you.
This bill follows two previous measures, both of which had adverse consequences for Texas women. The first, passed in 2011, was a reduction of funding for family planning by 2/3. Over 80 clinics in Texas closed, many with no affiliation to Planned Parenthood. The second measure was the removal of Planned Parenthood from the Women's Health Program in January 2013. As with the earlier cuts, there was a large negative impact on the use of the most effective methods: IUDs, subdermal implants, and injectable contraceptives. Neither of these measures seem to anticipate the long-term effects of removing skilled providers from a family planning safety net that took decades to build. To assess differences between new providers and those with more extensive experience in family planning, we recently conducted a survey of 114 clinics or organizations contracted by the Healthy Texas Women program. We found that the newer providers were much more likely to follow 4 key clinical guidelines that facilitate women's prompt access to highly effective contraception. The bottom line is that experience matters. Something substantial would be lost if this bill were passed, and local governments wishing to contract reproductive health services would no longer be free to choose the organization or clinic that they consider to be the most competent in their own communities. Thank you.
Next witness. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debbie Simmons, and I am for House Bill 1929. I served on the Round Rock ISD School Health Advisory Council, known as the SHAC. Through that experience, I learned how Planned Parenthood's former medical director, Mary Calderon, received seed money in 1964 from Hugh Hefner's Playboy Foundation to start SIECUS, the Sexuality Information and Education Council of the U.S. Planned Parenthood and SIECUS used Dr. Alfred Kinsey's child abuse masked as experiments to promote comprehensive sex education in schools. In 1973, Alan Guttmacher, former president of Planned Parenthood, was asked how the Supreme Court abortion decision could be made absolutely secure once and for all. He responded with the 2 words, sex education. Planned Parenthood's annual reports boast that it is the largest provider of sex education. In the fiscal year ending June 2018, Planned Parenthood affiliates spent $48.4 million on sexuality education. This line item is a marketing expense. Good marketing strategies manage a sales funnel to guide customers through each phase of the sales process. Abortion providers use sex education to create awareness of the organization and services. A student may be contemplating or participating in sexual behavior. Abortion providers guide them through the consideration phase, providing support as the student considers contraception and progresses into riskier behaviors. When the student finally makes the choice, in this case to have sex or they find themselves pregnant, abortion providers move the student successfully through the conversion phase for contraception and STD testing or for an abortion. Abortion providers then have a relationship with the child built on loyalty. Finally, these young customers actively advocate for abortion. Abortion providers sell sex, contraception, STD testing and treatments, emergency contraception, and abortions. Planned Parenthood's marketing strategy for building and filling a successful sales funnel is executed with precision that any business would admire. Abortion providers provide instruction in schools, write and publish programs purchased by school districts using CHACS dollars and attends SHAC meetings writing recommendations for these programs. Please protect children by confirming that our tax dollars will not be spent on the abortion industry marketing strategies, including in schools and local municipalities, and vote yes on this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank y'all for being here. I don't see any questions. Chair calls Sharon Armke, Kylene Wright, Terry Harper, and Amy Camp. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill. Deborah Simmons. Is Deborah still here? Can you come back up, please? Just please restate your position on the bill.
I am for the bill.
Thank you. That's all I need. Sorry about that.
My name is Amy Camp. I am testifying against this bill. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Amy Camp. I'm testifying against this bill. I represent one of 5,000 patients who received care at the 7th Street Planned Parenthood in 2018. I first visited this Planned Parenthood location in 2011. At the time, I didn't have health insurance and I didn't have the money to pay out of pocket for a pap smear or a well woman exam. I was able to get an exam at Planned Parenthood for no cost, thanks to the Women's Health Program. And the pap smear revealed that I had precancerous cells. And so Planned Parenthood was able to help me apply for other assistance in order to get a colposcopy at no cost. And over the next few years, I visited Planned Parenthood to monitor my situation and to make sure that I didn't develop cervical cancer, which is one of the easiest cancers to prevent, but can be deadly if it's not caught in time. I've never gotten anything but excellent care at that Planned Parenthood, and although I do believe that abortion is health care, I never got any care that was related to abortion. I only got care that was related to making sure that I stayed alive. I know that there are a lot of people who have mentioned, that there are other places where people can get this care, and I would beg to differ. I think that if y'all have questions about that, I would ask that you please contact me. I would love to discuss this with you further. I feel like, I'm one of the few people here who's actually speaking from lived experience, and I can tell you that when you don't have health insurance, it is very hard to find health care within the time frame that you need it, and at a level of service where you feel like you can trust it. And I also want to say, the first time I got involved in local politics was when the state legislature decided to move forward with cutting the Women's Health Program and replacing it with the Texas or Healthy Texas Woman program. So I understand that a lot of times y'all want to score a political point by making things about abortion, but also keep in mind that when you tell people like me that we don't deserve health care, that makes us want to get out and vote.
I don't see any questions. Thank you, ma'am. Kylene?
My name is Kylene Wright, and I'm speaking in favor of HB 1929 on behalf of myself and Texans for Life. And I would just ask that you support this bill so that we are not complicit in abortion. 61% of Americans, even Americans who do support abortion rights, reject taxpayer subsidies of abortion. And as has been pointed out, the Texas legislature has worked diligently to end them. Abortion providers, however, appear unwilling to be weaned, seeking to quietly partner with any number of a seemingly endless supply of local governments, which includes over 1,200 ISDs, 3,300 cities and towns, and 254 counties, making it almost impossible for those of us who want to know to track and report to our supporters. Furthermore, all the needs of abortion providers purport to address can be and already are being met by others. And as you, Mr. Chairman, pointed out, they do not seem to be, the big abortion does not seem to be suffering any shortage of money and unable to pay their own way. No matter how the abortion industry tries to spin it, abortion is not health care that by definition is meant to heal. Abortion ends the life of a unique human being, making it deeply offensive, piercing the conscience of many of us. And I ask you to again keep us from being complicit. It is purely elective in almost all cases, and no abortion facility is providing any kind of service that can't or isn't being met by real health care providers. It's time to free the taxpayer and end big abortion's addiction to our tax dollars. And again, I ask you to support HB 1929.
Representative Harless.
Ms. Wright, you're with Texans for Life, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do y'all have office space or an office building?
We do, and it is considerably more than $1 a month.
Or $1 a year?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair calls Deborah Nelms, Bree Wilkes, Paula Moore, Stacy Alexander. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
You need to know my name. No.
Just grab a seat and thank you. Ready? Yes, go ahead.
My name is Bree Wilkes. I'm in support of HB 1929, and
You represent yourself?
Oh, I represent myself.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So I'm 17 and I go to school at Cisco High School, but at the time I was in junior high and I was 12 or 13, and we had a school assembly, and at the time it was about sex ed, and during the assembly it was very conservative because it's a conservative school, and it was pretty general since it was the whole school, so it was very conservative in general. And then afterwards they told us that in the lunchroom there would be pamphlets to like specify about more of sex ed. And when we all went to the cafeteria and the pamphlets were on the table, we got them, and in the middle of them, like in the middle section somewhere, it was talking about premarital sex. And so my mom heard about it, and so when I came home, she asked about the pamphlet, and that's when I gave it to her, and she was very upset about it, which she contacted the school and asked them how they got the pamphlets, and it ended up getting traced back to the Crisis Center, which got it from Planned Parenthood, but they didn't know it at the time. And that's all. Thank you.
You good? Next witness.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for 1929. My name is Paula Moore. I'm a mother, grandmother, teacher, and a CWA member. I have 35 years in education, from teaching 6th graders to college freshmen at a community college. My educational areas are English, biology, and reading specialization. My goal today is to present actual excerpts, which are shocking, from a sex ed curriculum currently being taught in 7 Texas schools. Most of this particular curriculum is being taught in San Antonio, Texas, where I live. It is called Draw the Line, Respect the Line, and it was developed through ETR Associates, and they are the publishing arm of Planned Parenthood. It is funded by local tax dollars. Perhaps you hadn't really thought about the connection with Planned Parenthood, sex ed, and local tax dollars, but believe you me, it's there. In my own opinion, parents are paying for their children to be sexually groomed by Planned Parenthood through their curriculum and through their taxes. And 2 results of this, among many, are pregnancy and STIs. I wanted to give you an example. It's shocking, but this is being presented to 8th graders. It is in the curriculum. First of all, they give the teacher dialogues with the student, and this is what the teacher is telling the student about sex as far as risk. There were 3 stages: safe, some risk, and risky sex. This is what was told the students. The definition of risky sex is sex with latex condom, with baby oil, sex with someone on the pill, no condom, penis and rectum with condom, penis and rectum with no condom. This illustrates how these kids are being groomed by sexualizing children, by desensitizing them to sexual things, implying their peers are sexually active, and teaching them explicit sexual vocabulary. Note, the curricula introduces children to a myriad of controversial sexual acts and sexual scenarios. When presented to young hormonal teens, remember that, this sexual instruction can inadvertently or intentionally increase sexual behavior amongst the students. Thank you.
Chairman, representatives, my name is Deborah Nelms, and I support HB 1929. Because I've personally worked in crisis pregnancy centers and I've sat across the table of mothers in crisis pregnancies, all ages, of all backgrounds, a lot of the young ones I noticed, they would share with me that they had some kind of protection that they got at school. And from what I've heard from them, which obviously I can't reveal anything about them, but Planned Parenthood is giving them a false sense of protection or security and giving them contraceptions that are made to fail in order to bring the kids back later for an abortion. That's really what it looks like to me. They're setting it up to bring in more business. And who are they going after but our children? You know, they're very vulnerable at this time in their life, and I don't, you know, I feel like that's a major conflict of interest for them to be, you know, just like several of the speakers said, like this woman beside me, they really are, they're really taking advantage of our children's vulnerability, and we've got to stand up and at least not pay for them to be sent to the slaughter in this respect. So I really appreciate this opportunity to speak, and thank you for your time and work on this matter, and I'll take any questions.
Will you restate your position on the bill, please?
Yes, I am for the bill.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Stacy Alexander. I'm here on behalf of myself. I'm a taxpayer and a resident of Travis County, and I'm opposed to HB 1929 because it blocks health care from uninsured low-income Texans. HB 1929 would have a broad impact because it blocks any local government or community from addressing public health issues in the way that is most appropriate for their local community, as determined by their local elected officials. Here in Austin, our elected officials, the mayor, and overwhelming majority of the city council members have voted a lease agreement enabling Planned Parenthood to provide health care in the same clinic location on East 7th Street since 1974. Any patient can come to that health care center, regardless of their zip code, their insurance, their income level, their documentation status, their gender or sexual orientation. Last year, more than 5,000 local residents received health care from this location. That includes birth control, including IUDs and implants, preventative health care exams, cervical cancer screening and testing and treatment for sexually transmitted infections for men and women, HIV testing and treatment. This center does not provide abortions. Texas has one of the highest rates in teen pregnancies. Almost 35,000 teens are pregnant every year, and one of the most important services that Planned Parenthood provides is birth control. I'm a cancer survivor myself. I benefited from private health care. I can't imagine what it's like to be low income or uninsured and not have the ability to have cancer screening and then treatment once you've been diagnosed. This location has provided reliable and quality health care for over 40 years. I am opposed to HB 1929 because it would deprive low-income men and women in our community from that much needed health care. Thank you for your time.
No questions. Thank y'all for being here. Chair calls Ann Newman, Emily Horn, Elizabeth Graham, and Monica Layfield. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
I'm Ann Newman, and I support HB 1929. This bill is about our tax dollars, but our children are more precious than our tax dollars. If we don't want abortion providers to have our money, why are we letting them have our children? Abortion is a business that has no business in public schools, and Planned Parenthood is the largest. Planned Parenthood harms children and families because it opposes parental consent for abortion and undermines parental rights and authority. It undermines Texas law that requires teaching the standard of sexual abstinence until marriage. It uses offensive materials and encourages high-risk behaviors. It facilitates sex with minors by providing them contraceptives without parental consent. It partners with SIECUS to normalize minors having sex. SIECUS is the Sex Information and Education Council, and it believes that sex education is a vehicle for social change. I agree. SIECUS is harming children's innocence by introducing to 5 to 8-year-olds topics such as intercourse, gender, same-sex relationships, masturbation, and sexually transmitted diseases. Planned Parenthood believes abortion is a fundamental right, and its core mission is providing, protecting, and expanding access to abortion. Planned Parenthood in schools puts the state's stamp of approval on its mission and its philosophy. If you look at the internet, you'll find Planned Parenthood's advice topics on the internet include, is oral sex safer? How can I use shear, glide, or dental dams to make oral sex safer? How can I have safer sex with my sex toys? How can I use lubricant for safer sex? How does safer sex make sex feel better? Planned Parenthood promotes outercourse, which it describes as as other sexual activities besides vaginal sex. Planned Parenthood corrupts the definition of abstinence, saying abstinence and outercourse mean different things to different people. Please protect children by keeping Planned Parenthood and their affiliates out of schools. Please keep them from providing curriculum, teacher training, and resources in public schools. And I invite you to look at page 2 of my testimony, and you will see some of the Planned Parenthood materials. The G-Spot video, which represents genitalia, and it was created for Planned Parenthood, and TeenWire.com to educate in a fun and sexy way. Below that, you'll see Bobby Earth wearing a condom costume, and a young man, a teenager, doing angel wings and colored condoms on the floor. And then you'll see about the consent video and the lyrics from the Teen Reach Don't Ya video.
Chairman Raymond.
You know, I appreciate all of y'all who get very engaged on these very important issues. And I want to ask you something, because some of this that's just kind of I've wondered about for a long time. The way human nature is, right?
I'm sorry?
Human nature?
Yes.
Human?
Yes.
We're all God's children, I believe. If you took a boy and a girl that were God's creation, right, and you put them on an island when they're 2 years old, and you just made sure they got fed and all that stuff, make sure they lived and were taken care of in terms of their health. God's plan is that that boy and girl, that girl, likely be pregnant by the time she's 13. Would you agree with that? God's plan?
God's plan?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think there's any evidence of that, but I would direct you to the book Lord of the Flies, where some, I believe, scouts were isolated on an island and ended up doing some pretty violent and vicious things without supervision.
I'm saying, but one boy and one girl. That's what I'm asking you. And if you don't see it that way, then I'll stop, because I do. I believe that if you took a boy and a girl and they grew up on an island, that girl will be pregnant by the time she's 13, 14, because that's God's plan, for us to procreate and continue. The only way you change that, right, trajectory, if you will, is education, right? For us to teach that little girl and teach that little boy or the teenagers, not to get pregnant at that age. And so the conundrum that's just baffled me for a long time is when I got here, by the way, members, in 1993, that session, the session before, the legislature had passed some sex education deal. 2 years later now, we're voting to repeal it, and I voted to repeal it. So I voted to repeal it because we thought we were telling our kids too much, right? But that's when from then to now, I keep wondering, how do we change God's trajectory without educating that boy and that girl?
Okay.
And I don't think we can. And so that's a conundrum. It's like, how do we do this? How do we do it responsibly? Some of the stuff you're talking about makes me uneasy. Some of the things you're talking about.
I could show you worse.
Well, and that would make me more uneasy, right? So my I don't even know if it's
okay. I'd like to answer your question. Yeah. For one, we're not talking about a boy and a girl being on an island from 2 years old. We're talking about our teens. Our teens need a standard, and we as adults need to direct them to a standard that will protect their lives, their health, and their futures. And that's our responsibility. It's not to groom children for sex. It's not to tell them all about sexual practices that, very frankly, I didn't know existed probably until I was close to 30, and offensive in an offensive way in mixed classes with boys and girls, and start talking about these topics at 5 to 8 years old, going on up and getting worse and worse and worse.
And I see that. I understand that. My point is that how we thread that needle, right, to where we can tell them just enough about why they shouldn't or how not to get pregnant at 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever. And I mean it. I mean it sincerely. I wish we could figure that out, how we could do that without telling them, some of the things that you discussed, right?
I'd like to get some information to you on Heritage Keepers that does that. There are programs, there are many programs out there that do that, and they encourage kids to look at their future and what's at stake. For example, I don't know if this is in that particular curriculum, but teenagers need to know what they're doing to their children. When you have sex, you are risking another life, creating another life. If that life grows up without a father, you know the risk factors. You know they're more likely to end up in juvenile detention. You know all of that. Yeah. We need to concentrate on motivating kids toward their future and what they can achieve.
Well, you're asking them, but you're appealing to sort of simple intellect, I suppose, and it's hard. I mean, I remember being a teenager. I liked girls. I mean, I did, right? And so I had girlfriends all through high school and college, right? And so you say, well, I better not do anything because something happens, they have a baby, that baby's more likely to get into trouble. I think a lot of teenagers don't think that. They don't think with this. You see what I'm saying?
So you got the message. So other kids.
Whoa! You don't know what I.
Okay, I don't know what you did. Okay, I don't want to get into that.
I don't want to get into that either. You know.
But you just what you said. You were concerned about where this would lead.
No. I said what you're proposing is that's the best way to go, and I'm telling you, I think there are a lot of kids out there, a lot of teenagers. They're not going to go with that intellectual approach. Now, young man, young lady, don't have sex because if you do, when you're 13, 14, 15, 16. And the girl gets pregnant, she's going to have a baby, and that baby's more likely to get into trouble. Oh, well, then I won't have sex.
That's not the whole program of the Heritage Keepers. There's much more to it than that.
It should be, and I'm for telling them that.
Right.
But I think it's got to be more, and that's a conundrum for me.
Okay.
I'm a Democrat, so I'm going to be more open on some stuff than a Republican.
Well, let me give you a few facts.
I'm Republican.
Okay. Let me give you a few facts. A recent medical report came out that says that teenagers on the birth control pill get bone loss. That's pretty serious. Normally you don't see that until you're older. Okay, that's one fact. Look at probably when you were growing up. I know when I was growing up, there were 2 sexually transmitted diseases. Now there's over 40, the last count that I looked at. Look what's happening. There are babies. There was a report in the San Antonio newspaper about babies dying from syphilis because they got it from their mothers. There is some tremendous damage. Human papillomavirus causes cervical cancer. Okay. Girls having sex, the earlier age, their cervix is not completely developed, so they're more vulnerable to sexually transmitted diseases like human papillomavirus. So there's all sorts of factors about what is healthy and what is not healthy. A while back, I had heard a story, so I called I emailed the Treasury Department, the U.S. Treasury Department, and I had heard. And they confirm when they train their agents to recognize counterfeit, they don't show them the counterfeit. They don't teach them what counterfeit is. They teach them the real thing. We need to teach our kids what's true, what's healthy, what's legal, what's under their parents' authority, and what's right. And we need to concentrate so when they're tempted to get engaged in this situation, and not all of them will resist that temptation, I know. But they will recognize immediately this is a danger area. Thank you.
I had one final question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The video's on the second page, and I'm not even going to reference the first one. Where it says it was created for Planned Parenthood, was it ever used? Was that?
It's on their website. You can go and look at the whole thing. I would be embarrassed and ashamed to have my children participate in that video. It's pretty raunchy.
Was this pushed out to schools? I mean, and what age? Do you know?
Any teenager that has Planned Parenthood resources, it's a teen reach video. The teenreach.com, I believe it is. I think I put on there. Any teenager that gets referred to Planned Parenthood can go on there at any age. You heard earlier testimony about the the chat app. It's called a chat bot, and it's called ROO, R-O-O. And it remind you of anything? Pooh Bear and Kangaroo? Okay, appealing to kids. On there, you can go in and you can they have questions that are already on there, like how do I know I'm ready for sex? And other questions. You can ask your own questions. You can chat with this app. That is a Planned Parenthood outreach. That's their latest, and you heard testimony earlier about it going to charter schools.
Well, it's eye-opening, I'll tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of House Bill 1929. I wanted to speak and just testify to the need for this bill, because there has been a lot of questions from members and from voters, just haven't we already addressed this issue? Because there have been a lot of votes taken in the last several sessions to remove taxpayer funding from Planned Parenthood and any other abortion providers and affiliates. Several of the members on this committee have taken some of these votes. Just to give you all a brief history of that, in 2011 was the first time several $1 million, or $64-ish million, I think, were removed from the abortion industry through the state budget from the family planning funding stream, which led to the closure of several Planned Parenthood locations. And this is the same year that the legislature renewed the Women's Health Program in 2011, which at the time was 90% federally funded. At the time, they also instructed HHSC to enforce the prohibition on Planned Parenthood contracts in the Women's Health Program. This led to a long, drawn-out war between the Obama administration and Texas, which led to the Healthy Texas Women Program, which is now fully state-funded and free of abortion providers. 2015 and 13, the legislature continued to remove the abortion industry from various other funding streams because we continue to think that the job had been done since many of the largest targets had been taken away. They have been removed funding from the abortion industry, but we just continue to find more sources of funding in the state budget. So in 2017, a rider was added to Article 9 in the state budget, removing them from all budget funding. But of course, this only addresses the state resources, state funding, and state programs. And so what Representative Noble's bill will do for the first time is codify local and state governments, any local governments from doing the same thing. And as you all have heard several examples today from the city of Austin, there's other examples in other cities and counties. But this is a great need because the legislature has stated their intent to remove taxpayer funding from abortion providers, but this is not protecting local taxpayers depending on what city or county they live in. I'm from Harris County. Recently, a provision was defeated that would have allowed for Planned Parenthood to lobby, or the Harris County to lobby on behalf of Planned Parenthood. So there's a lot of local activity that needs to be addressed, and so we're thankful for Representative Noble for bringing this bill and for y'all for hearing it. So.
Hold on, I'm double duty here. Hold on. All right. Representative Harless.
I'm sorry you had to multitask. That's fine. Emily, is that right?
Yes.
You said you're with Texas Right to Life?
Yes, sir.
Do y'all have office space?
We do, and even though it is not downtown premium office space location, we pay several $1,000s a month.
Thank you.
In Houston and Dallas.
Emily, you heard my earlier testimony about the 990s that are submitted to the IRS from
yes,
various.
sir.
Do any of those numbers, do they sound right to you? I know you've reviewed them probably yourself at some point.
You'll have to refresh my memory. That was a little while ago. I knew you were saying that.
Well, I just found the 3 different 990s from 2016. One from the Greater Texas chapter, which is Dallas. One from the Houston and Southeast Texas, which is Houston, and one from South Texas, which is San Antonio. And the net revenue from 2016 was $3.2 million for Dallas. For Houston, Southeast Texas, the net revenue is $2.6 million. The net revenue for South Texas is $1.7 million. San Antonio, South Texas, yeah, San Antonio. So, of course, they had assets of 46.8, 49.3, and 9.4. You know, in your opinion, this is a job that you perform every day. Do you see someone paying fair market value here in Austin, Texas, with those type of revenues? And I'm assuming Central Texas is somewhere near those other large cities as far as net operating revenue from their own affiliates. do you think it would cause services to be increased? Because it seems like there's net revenue there to cover this rent. Because in Houston, are they getting? You said they rejected the deal, correct? Or that was for lobbying?
That was for lobbying. I know there was a pregnancy center that offered the city of Austin fair market value for that space, and their offer was rejected. And so I know that the city has had several, at least one offer to have fair market value, where they would then have revenue that, should they choose to put that towards other women's health care services that were not abortion providers, they would have the option to do that. So I think there's a lot of ways this can be explored that wouldn't raise the cost of healthcare.
Well, I think if you're netting 3.2, 2.6, and 1.7, the three largest cities in 2016, if you're netting that, I don't see how $100,000 on rent, fair market value, would cause an increase in services.
Right. I think that's definitely a fair question.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Next witness.
Elizabeth Graham. I'm with Texas Right to Life. I am in favor of House Bill 1929, and I represent myself and Texas Right to Life. Thank you all for spending so much time on this important issue. As Emily said, you all have spent so much time taking and redirecting funds to healthcare agencies and programs that actually provide an abundance of women's services, and keeping those funds away from agencies that are involved in abortion and their affiliates. In 2011, 2013, and again last session, you all redirected funds away from entities that are affiliated with abortion providers, and that freed up a lot of funds to go to other programs that are that serve women. They offer a broad spectrum of services. In fact, the Healthy Texas Women's Program, as of 2017, had 2,896 providers across the state. And so these are agencies and doctors who are willing to provide these women's health services to women, low-income women in particular, and are not affiliated with abortion. The defunding or taking these funds away from the abortion industry is a priority in the Republican Party platform. When states do flex their muscle and enforce the Hyde Amendment, the federal Hyde Amendment, the number of abortion is reduced when states enforce that. And one of the main concerns with funding the abortion industry is that the funds are fungible. They're hard to trace. So even though you do say in state or federal law that these funds cannot be used for a specific service or to kill unborn children, that's very difficult to track. And so since the funds are fungible, we do think it's important to put into law rather than just in the budget provision. We do think Representative Noble's bill is important because that does codify what you all have tried to do with budget provisions for so long, to say that it's state law, that no local entities nor any state dollars can go to these agencies that provide abortion or affiliate with abortion providers.
No questions. Thank you. I'm sorry, Chairman King.
Thank you. I'm not sure who on the panel is the right person, but so the way the bill's written, do you think it prohibits public schools? Do you think they're considered government entities, so they could not contract with Planned Parenthood or similar entities?
Sorry, are you finished?
I'm finished.
Okay. My understanding is that the way the bill, I'm speaking to the Senate version, so maybe you can answer that because I'm not sure the language.
Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah. My understanding is that there is a version that
we can only talk about the House version.
You're correct. So I'd rather Emily answer that because she has the most updated committee sub.
Well, I'm not actually looking at the committee sub right now. I think that they would be prevented from contracting with Planned Parenthood. I think there could be questions about whether they could use Planned Parenthood material depending on how that was obtained.
So I'm not donated or something like that.
Exactly. So that would be different than a contract.
And do you think it would apply as written to charter schools as well, because they're actually public schools?
I would think it would apply the same way, since it would be a subdivision of the state.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Chair calls Mary Castle, Amy O'Donnell, Jonathan Sines, and Nicole Hudgens. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill. You're not going to read all that, are you?
No, that would take us a little while.
It sure would.
My name is Amy O'Donnell. I'm the Director of Communications at Texas Alliance for Life. We're a statewide organization of people committed to protecting innocent human lives from conception to natural death using peaceful legal means. We strongly support House Bill 1929. I am here today as a woman who understands what it's like to be 22 years old facing an unplanned pregnancy. I was married for 3 months, on the pill, facing my last year at Texas A&M in biomedical engineering. When I got the news, abortion was never an option for me, and because of that, 21 years later, I know what it is to look my son in the eyes and tell him he's the best unexpected blessing I've ever received. I graduated 6 months late, juggled a baby and dreams for the future, yet looking back, I'm blown away to see I've accomplished exceedingly abundantly more than I ever imagined while still being a young mom. Many of my friends faced their own similar situation. Married and unmarried, they made another choice, and they decided to abort their babies. And I've walked with them through years of grieving, heartache, healing, and tears. The pressures behind their choices stemmed from the messaging aimed at us as women. Messages such as the billboards I've given you pictures of. And the first one, if you look at it, it has a girl covering her face, and she says, the sign says, "You can choose this or this." A girl smiling in a gown and a hat, getting ready to graduate. So you can choose pregnancy or graduation and a bright future. The sign below it says, "Abortion is self-care." The subtle and not so subtle messaging aimed our way as women is that we must sacrifice our babies on the altar of convenience in order to be successful. That taking care of unplanned pregnancies is taking care of ourselves. The new Planned Parenthood location in East Austin, while it does not have a big sign such as these, still sends a similar message to those in the community and the students at Huston-Tillotson University simply by the name it has on its sign alone. Their new president, Leanna Wynn, recently drove this home when she said of Planned Parenthood that their core mission is providing, protecting, and expanding access to abortion. This new location and the message it sends to the community is happening at the expense of taxpayers thanks to their sweet rent deal offered to them by the City of Austin. The passage of HB 1929 removes taxpayer funding from abortion providers and their affiliates. The fact is, Texans do not want abortion providers or referrers in their communities, and they don't want them funded by their tax dollars. I have with me today a petition against Planned Parenthood signed by 17,000 individuals, including thousands in West Texas, where Planned Parenthood has announced their intention to build a new facility, presumably to perform thousands of abortions each year. Today, I ask you to consider the message that Planned Parenthood sends to women, to our communities, and I ask you to honor these requests to defund it by supporting HB 1929.
Thank you. Chairman Raymond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, you may have mentioned in your comments, and I may have missed it, but I'm looking at your handout.
Yes.
So I thought I knew all the counties in Texas. Where is Sanilac County?
You know, I anticipated that I might get that question, and that is a picture of an abortion sign that's gone viral around the internet. And the fact is today that signs that we have in local areas in other states don't just affect the women in those states that drive down those roads and see those signs.
Just to clarify, so there is not a Sanilac County, Texas?
There is not, but I'm in Texas, and I saw that sign along with every other Texan who had access to it on the internet.
Did you? Well, we got access to the whole world. It's the World
True.
Wide Web.
It is a message. I'm talking about messaging today.
But where is this one from? You may have said it.
That is from the Dallas area.
The Dallas area?
Mm-hmm.
Were there, and so what is you must have looked this up, the AFIA Center. Do you know what .org?
The AFIA Center.
AFIA, how's it pronounced?
It's how I pronounce it. I'm not.
The AFIYA Center.org.
Yes.
Did you look that up?
I have looked it up before.
And what is that?
It is a group if I recall correctly, and I don't want to misspeak, so if I need to look it up and get the information to you, I can, but specifically that caters towards that demographic on the sign. But I can look it up and get back to you.
What demographic on the sign?
I'm sorry. I'll have to look it up and get you the
The
information.
demographic, you mean African-American women?
I'll be happy to look it up and get you the information.
Well, you gave us this, so I assume that you looked it up before you gave it to us.
I did, but it's been a while since I read about the
compelled to give us
organization.
something that had African-American women on there? And
I'm simply talking about the
Did
messaging.
you
We
find one
women
these-
of every.
Did you find one of these in Texas
Yes,
that, like this?
it's in
What
Dallas.
No, did you find one of these in Texas that was white women?
I'm not from Dallas.
Did you find one of these in Texas, one of these?
I
You
did
felt-
not
you felt
look for
compelled to give
one.
us this one. I'm just
I
curious
didn't
why.
look. I knew of that sign. I had heard of that sign, and so I read of it a while back. I'm happy to get more information about it and send it to you if you need that. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members. I know y'all have had a long day, so thank you so much for taking the time to hear our testimony. My name is Nicole Hudgens, and I'm the Senior Policy Analyst for Texas Values, and I'm speaking in favor of HB 1929 on behalf of our organization, as well as myself as a resident of Austin. At Texas Values, we represent over 100,000 supporters in Texas in all 254 counties, and we're speaking in favor of HB 1929. This bill ensures tax dollars are not used to fund, lease, or donate to abortion groups or affiliates, and we support the bill for the following reasons. HB 1929 protects taxpayers from funding practices and organizations that violate their moral conscience, such as abortion and hiding child sex abuse. HB 1929 prevents local abortion groups like Planned Parenthood in Austin from receiving sweetheart rent deals, while families and low-income individuals in the surrounding area are struggling to maintain housing, schools, and livelihood. And it's not fair that Planned Parenthood can rent property owned by taxpayers, for the grand total of $1 a year. It's not fair to residents that are dealing with school closures and major increases in property taxes. As a matter of fact, my roommate and I, who live in East Austin, have a monthly increase of our property taxes that have gone up significantly. This is money that could have gone to our school loans that we wish we had. But by the time that Planned Parenthood pays just the equivalent of what we've had in our property taxes, it would be a couple hundred years. If citizens want to donate to Planned Parenthood, the organization that has covered child sex abuse and has been caught on tape discussing the sale of baby body parts for profit, this bill doesn't stop that. But it does protect taxpayers like myself and over 100,000 Texans from being forced to use our money against our moral and religious beliefs. HB 1929 protects citizens against government favoritism towards groups like Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers, and over other government programs that can provide services to the community without the controversy. So I urge this community, please pass HB 1929.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Elizabeth Castle, and I'm the Policy Advisor for Texas Values, an organization that stands for faith, family, and freedom and represents over 100,000 Texans in 254 counties. I am testifying in favor of House Bill 1929. Now, in order to say my reasons, or Texas Values research reasons for being in favor of HB 1929, I have to dispel two rumors or two myths that Planned Parenthood in Austin has been dispelling to the people of Austin. The first is that Planned Parenthood needs $1 rent because they're a nonprofit organization. And I'll explain why this is absurd. Some may say that this is because they are a nonprofit organization that does not have many resources and they are helping the community they live in. Well, Planned Parenthood wanted to spend $1.2 million on renovation of their property, which proves that they have at least this much money and more, even if they could spend this on renovation alone. Secondly, they're not helping the community much in that area if schools are closing in that area. Property taxes have increased by $200. And let's note that East Austin is a working class area where people are being forced out of their homes because of the rising costs to live there. While more businesses are moving there, those are businesses that can afford to pay rent there. This is a rundown area with houses that are of people of lower income. So Planned Parenthood does have the money to pay average rent in that area. Secondly, another myth that Planned Parenthood has been dispelling is that they provide a lot of services to low-income individuals that they may not be able to get somewhere else. And our research has shown several instances and several other places where people can get STD testing, whether it's their primary care physician, gynecologist, or urologist, or if they have or of lower income and do not have health insurance, they can get it from the local health department and a number of low-income health clinics that serve those with no insurance, or for those who do not get regular testing. In regards to mammogram testing, they can also get it from other places. If they are 40 years or older, you can get a mammogram for free under the Affordable Care Act. Also, the National Breast Cancer Foundation partners with numerous health clinics to provide free mammograms, and the Susan G. Komen Foundation also provides access to those resources. Also, the National Breast Cancer and Cervical Cancer Control Program provides breast cancer and cervical cancer screenings, and the YWCA is a local resource for breast cancer screenings and information. Along with all these resources, Planned Parenthood is not the only resource where people can go who are low income for these types of services. In fact, this is why we want to say that if you don't believe in Planned Parenthood's objective to fund abortion, you shouldn't have to pay taxpayer dollars for it. Thank you.
I see no questions. Thank you all for being here. Chair calls Lori Maying, Larry Nelson, Joe Pointman, James Dickey. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Can I start? Hi, I'm Lori Meinig. I am for the bill, and I'm representing myself, a Texas mom and grandma. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I've just been so upset by things that I've seen and heard that I just came up here, so I don't have any written notes or anything.
That's even better.
Just being a mom, back 30 years ago, here in Austin, things we all know is pretty liberal. I'm not. I'm a very strong Christian woman. So to raise my kids, I had 4 children under the age of 4. I knew that it was going to be too much time and effort to get up to the school and to be able to make sure what are my kids being taught. So I took my husband and I talked about it, and we decided to put our kids into private. Now that has happened across our state. There's been a huge rise in private schools. I wonder why. It's because a lot of us are done. I am done with what I've been hearing. A lot of the stuff that was up here talked about today, guess what? I figured it out because I started researching. Because now I'm a grandma. So my kids all graduated. They're all married. They're all, just in the past 2 years. They all have really good jobs. They're doing great. Okay, so I have time now to see what's going on, and I am shocked that we have allowed this to happen. This is our watch. This is a time that we're supposed to be caring about these kids, and yes, you can put 2 kids on an island. Can I kind of talk about that for a second? Is that okay? Do I need permission for the person? Okay. Yes. Probably what would happen at some point is there probably would be a baby, but there would be a baby. That's life. There wouldn't be an abortion. There would be a baby. Would they care for it? Probably. We hope so. I guess so researching, I go online, I figure out there are 40 sliding scale clinics that can offer these services. And a lot of these clinics have incredible doctors there on staff that would follow them. Once they determine there's cancer, guess what? They're there and they're going to follow them through. They're not going to have to refer them to someone else. That's only one thing I looked up. Then when I found out that Austin, Texas gives $1 rent I'm appalled. I like real estate transactions too. I could not even believe that. That's one other. I wish I had more time. I wish I. So all that to say, Planned Parenthood is now in the schools, and my voice was kicked out a long time ago. And I have good things to say. They have bullied my people. And now they're a huge machine that is rocking it across our nation. And they need to stop. They need some kind of grounds. They push us over, but we have voices too. And I put a lot of money and a lot of time into the getting my kids. My husband would joke and say we could have bought like a brand new car every year for what we had to pay for private school. Okay, sorry.
I'm paying it myself. I understand your Catholic family, always gone to the same Catholic school. It's certainly a sacrifice. So thank you for being here all day, and thank you for your testimony. Mr. Poyman?
My name is Dr. Joe Poyman. I'm Executive Director of Texas Alliance for Life, and I'm here representing that organization. We strongly support House Bill 1929. Going back to 2011, this legislature passed Senate Bill 7, first called session, that excludes abortion providers and affiliates from the Healthy Texas Women Program. Of course, that was called the Medicaid Women's Health Program. That was challenged. It went up to the Fifth Circuit. In 2012, the Fifth Circuit upheld Texas' right to structure the Medicaid Women's Health Program to focus their monies on comprehensive care through federally qualified health centers, private facilities, private physicians, and so forth, and exclude abortion providers and their affiliates. Texas does not need abortion providers and affiliates to be emissaries of our programs. Let's look at the Healthy Texas Women's Program. According to our latest public information request, more than 5,000 providers across the state of Texas, including rural areas, physicians' offices, federally qualified health centers, none in rural areas, none advocate or affiliate with abortion providers. Nearly 300,000 women enrolled. That's a record. They provide comprehensive primary and preventative care. They provide mammograms. Let's look at Planned Parenthood. A few dozen sites, all in urban areas in Texas. They run the largest chain of abortion facilities in Texas. If a woman goes to Planned Parenthood, she will not see a physician. Let me repeat that. A woman will not see a physician at Planned Parenthood unless she is there for an abortion. They do not provide mammograms. They charge for services. Members, we do not need Planned Parenthood, and we urge you to protect taxpayers and provide better care for low-income women and their families by passing this bill. Thank you.
No questions? Next witness, please.
Honorable Chairman and committee members, my name is Larry Nelson. I'm strong support of House Bill 1929. I am here to oppose state funding of Planned Parenthood, but I want to approach this issue from a perspective that is not quite common, but yet very relevant. One of Planned Parenthood's close allies is the Sexual Information and Education Council of the U.S., aka SERIS. Recently said the following: sex education is the vehicle of social change. In fact, Planned Parenthood and SERIS have asserted that if you care about abortion rights, then you should care about sex ed. So my objective here is to raise awareness of the fact that there is significant and a massive experiment of social engineering that is being led by Planned Parenthood, and unfortunately is being funded with our taxpayer dollars. Planned Parenthood claims to be the largest abortion provider in the country, possibly the world. This is very what I've handed out. This is very graphic. Now, the graphic handout that you are holding are excerpts from It's Perfectly Normal. The first page illustrates pornography illustrations. The second page speaks to masturbation and how it's done. This also infringes on parents' own beliefs. The last page speaks of abortion procedures and from the rights perspective. So Planned Parenthood favors exposing little children as young as 10 years old to ending life. You can find this book at Austin ISD libraries such as Allison Burrington, I believe, Highland Park, Manchaca, Patton, and Maplewood Elementary Schools here in Austin ISD. Please look at it and remember that Planned Parenthood is now entering our schools with one objective: sexualizing our children since early on. What is the driving force that's behind the push? Well, this should be clear when you realize that this is a nonprofit that operates like a business venture and who pays its CEO in upwards of $1 million per year and its headquarters accountants in upwards of $400,000 per year. Stop Planned Parenthood from sexualizing elementary children with my money. Thank you.
Representative Harless.
Dr. Poyman, does Texas Alliance for Life receive any tax credits or tax funding, free rent, or anything like that?
Sadly, no.
You don't. Thank you.
Thank you all for your testimony. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on, for, or against the bill? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Noble to close on her bill.
Thank you.
Hold on. Just a second, Representative. You come forward, please. Are you registered?
I did, yeah.
Check with James, please, and make certain you're in. What's your name?
Sarah Zarr. Z-A-R-R. I'm not?
No.
Okay. So
Could you register real quick, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got this for you.
Coffee at 6 p.m. You're going to be a long time. You're going to be here. Got news for you, baby. Cheers.
Melanie.
Chair calls Sarah Czar. Please state your name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I am Sarah Czar. I work with Students for Life of America and represent them as the Texas Regional Coordinator, as well as our sister organization, Students for Life Action. I work with 83 different student groups in Texas, so I represent students from middle school through high school, college, and med and law schools as well. And I just wanted to talk about how I work with students on a daily basis. That is really the target of Planned Parenthood and abortion facilities.
Sarah, I'm sorry, your position on the bill?
4.
Thank you.
And I work with students who are Planned Parenthood's target, 18 to 24-year-olds, and most Planned Parenthoods are located within 5 miles of a college campus. And I've seen really the hurt and pain that have come from abortion and talk to students on a daily basis. And we have found through polling that most students and most millennials poll pro-life, and that 53% of millennials are pro-life. And I really think that even just the fact that if you look up state inspections for Planned Parenthood and abortion facilities, they often fail their state inspections on different health accounts. And so I really don't think that abortion and Planned Parenthood facilities can be considered health care when they aren't held to the same standards as other healthcare facilities. There's plenty of other healthcare facilities out there. For instance, federally qualified healthcare centers outnumber Planned Parenthood in their locations 16 to 1. And they offer way more services, whereas Planned Parenthood services are going down. You can look at their own annual report that their services are on the decline and their abortions are on the rise. And their government funding keeps increasing and their services keep decreasing. For instance, their prenatal care has gone down 38%, their Pap tests have gone down 75%, their breast exams are down 66%, their HPV treatments are down 59%, and they only refer 1 adoption for every 130 abortions. Planned Parenthood's own stat from their annual report states that 90% of U.S. women never need to step foot in a Planned Parenthood in a given year. And federally qualified healthcare centers offer way more services for women, men, and families, and they commonly exist in underdeserved and rural areas and everywhere with more locations than abortion facilities. I wanted to read a letter from students. This was signed by 17 different schools in Texas, and it was also signed by students around the nation who are also for defunding Planned Parenthood federally. So millennials tend to get tossed around the press for being lazy, self-centered, and socially liberal, but that's not the truth. We are an educated generation with nearly 2 out of every 3 of us attending college. We are incredibly diverse, not only in race, but in political viewpoints, and we care about social justice, equality in our communities, which helps to explain why we are more passionately anti-abortion than generations before us. In fact, the Institute for Pro-Life Advancement found that 53% of millennials believe that abortion should be illegal in all or most circumstances. As a result of the elections last year, an entirely new government has an unprecedented opportunity to implement policies that reflect those viewpoints and to provide true equality to women and protect them from businesses that portray their trust and endanger their health. And so to this end, we ask you to immediately stop funding the nation's largest abortion vendor, Planned Parenthood. You can get the rest of the letter online since I'm out of time.
Chair Raymond.
Thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
You consider yourself a millennial?
Yes.
May I ask your age?
I'm 25.
And you grew up in Texas?
I did not. I grew up all over the nation, and I've lived here for 2 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any friends growing up or, from the time you were maybe a teenager to now who had an abortion?
Yes, several friends.
Several friends who had abortions?
Yeah, I've had a few friends and I've walked them through that and they've been able to get healing and support for that. All of these friends have regretted that decision and have a lot of symptoms such as post-traumatic stress disorder, depression. They've tried to or attempted to commit suicide and have a lot of this psychological markers that have been found and are taught that 119 different psychological markers can go up for a woman after abortion. And I've seen this firsthand in my friends' lives. And I've also seen my best friend in college went through an unplanned crisis pregnancy, and she had had an abortion before, and then for her second.
I'm sorry. Unplanned crisis. So she was that? I apologize, members. I know I should know what that means. What's unplanned crisis pregnancy? What is that?
So just she wasn't planning on having a child at that time in her life.
So it's called unplanned crisis pregnancy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they called it a crisis pregnancy. I apologize. And where did they have their abortions? Do you know?
At Planned Parenthood.
At Planned Parenthood, all of them? All of your friends?
I don't know about one of them, but two of them, yes.
And they're still your friends?
Yes.
And did any of them? I'll be brief, but did any of them sort of talk to you before they did it?
No, they didn't. It was I met them afterwards.
So, I was asking, I apologize, I wasn't clear. I was asking if you had any friends that were like your friends now, and then they have unwanted or unplanned crisis pregnancies, I guess you call it, and then you talked about it, and then they had an abortion. None of those? You don't have friends like that?
No, I'm not really sure of your question, but I will tell you about my.
Let me try to be clear. Do you have any women who were your friends first? And then got pregnant, and then had an abortion?
Yes.
So did they talk to you about it before they did it?
No, she did not.
Just one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No more questions. Thank you. Now, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on for or against the bill? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Noble to close on her bill.
Thank you, Chairman. At a time when our citizens and state leaders are asking us to prioritize government spending and provide tax reform, we must ensure that we are good stewards of our citizens' taxes by prioritizing the core functions of government and eliminating special interest subsidies which harm taxpayers. I respectfully request passage of House Bill 1929.
Chairman Hunter.
Now, Representative, I've seen some opposition here. Did anybody go talk to you?
None of the people that testified today talked to me. No.
So these are the first times you've heard the opposition?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I got one question. Representative Harless.
Representative Noble, you have a place in Austin here, don't you, where you live?
I do.
Are you paying $1 a year?
I'm actually paying more on my 345 square foot apartment than I do on my mortgage and my at home.
Representative Swanson.
Yes, thank you. Representative Noble, I just wanted to tell you that I think this bill is really important and wanted to thank you for filing it and carrying it.
Thank you, Representative Swanson. I thank you.
No further questions. Thank you, Representative Noble. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to House Bill 1929. The chair moves to leave House Bill 1929 pending. Is there any objection? Hearing none, House Bill 1929 is left pending.